a very loud crowd. Let me thank all of you for coming out tonight. Let me thank the Red.
So what you just saw there was a scene from Bernie Sanders' rally last night in Phoenix, Arizona. Bernie was speaking to big crowds, as he almost always does, about the issues that matter for working people, for young people, for marginalized people. And in that moment, somebody from the crowd, somebody who clearly does not have any love for Bernie Sanders, took out a Nazi flag, with the swastika on it, and unfurled it for all to see. And you could see the crowd react, and you could see a hero in that crowd snatch it from that person, to not let that symbol radiate its hate, radiate its intolerance and injustice into the crowd any longer. But this is really a troubling moment, guys, because this demonstrates that there's a fundamental hate brewing for Bernie Sanders and his movement. Because Bernie Sanders is not just speaking about political and social and racial and economic and environmental justice, but as we all know, Bernie Sanders and his family have been victimized by that Nazi regime and by all those that still to this day claim allegiance to that ideology, that hate, that tradition. We know the story that Bernie Sanders' father was an immigrant to America, and many of his relatives that did not immigrate wound up dead in the Holocaust. That's the fundamental truth. Bernie Sanders, in a very direct way, is a victim of one of the worst crimes in the history of our species. Bernie Sanders understands the ugliness of that symbol. He understands all that it represents and how it should have no place anywhere, either back in the 1940s or especially here in 2020. But Bernie Sanders' response to this particular image, to this particular incident, was really, really great, guys. I'm going to play you this clip. It's a little bit hard to hear, but I have to show you it.
Whoever it was, I think they're a little outnumbered tonight. And more importantly, they're going to be outnumbered in November. Let me thank the Red Mountain Dancers.
So what you can see is from a different angle, one of the crowd members is filming this on their iPhone or their Android or whatever, and they're basically showing the reaction where people are still booing, and you can hear Bernie, who sort of gets what's going on, and he says that, at the very least, we outnumber that person in this room, and we can outnumber them in November too, which is the perfect way to handle that, to not give any credence, to just move on about how you can outnumber hate with love, with hope, with optimism, with a passion for social justice. And Bernie Sanders 100% nailed that fact home last night in a way that maybe no one else could do but Bernie Sanders. But I gotta go beyond this little moment for a second, because in the last couple days, whether it was Elizabeth Warren in her interview with Rachel Maddow last night, or whether it was a bunch of people on Twitter and other social media platforms, making Bernie Sanders' online supporters and their mean tweets the story of the week. And I have to say, guys, that we see the hate that Bernie Sanders faces, online and offline, each and every day. And what we realize, guys, is that this focus on online mean tweets and memes that make fun of other campaigns and other supporters of campaigns is not in any way a real issue when compared to what we saw last night. We've seen so many ugly incidences in this campaign where Bernie Sanders, again, somebody of Jewish heritage, has been compared to a disease sweeping across America and the world. He's been compared to the Nazi blitzkrieg of France in the 1940s. These are incidences, not just from regular online, trolls, but people with massive international platforms on CNN and MSNBC and other sources. And it really does demonstrate that for all the hand-wringing of the establishment media about Bernie Sanders' mean supporters, Bernie Sanders, more than anyone else, is the one having real hate, consequential hate, directed at him and his supporters. Look at what Nina Turner and Brianna Joy Gray go through every single goddamn day. That's real hate. That's consequential hate. But Bernie Sanders stands above it, and his supporters stand above it. We're not going to let people like that try to scare Bernie Sanders and his supporters. We're not going to let people like that utilize Bernie Sanders' personal tragedies as a tool, an ideological tool against him and the people he's fighting for. We're not going to let that happen. And we're not going to let people try to equate, a few emojis on Twitter with a literal Nazi flag at a rally in Phoenix. We're not going to let them do that anymore. Bernie Sanders is the candidate of regular people. He's the candidate to fight for justice. He's the candidate more than anyone else to rectify the injustices of the past with a progressive program that looks to the future. Bernie Sanders will be everything that flag opposes, who he is, what family he belongs to, and what he believes in. Bernie Sanders is the positive candidate to build a better world. And don't let anyone else tell you otherwise, because they're lying, they're disingenuous, and they want to demobilize you and make you think that a little emoji is the same as a swastika. So guys, this video is certainly going to be demonetized. There's no way around that given the type of content we've talked about. If you want me to make videos like this every now and then, where we talk about the sort of things that we can't avoid in society, true manifestations of hate and intolerance and injustice, then I need your support on Patreon. Your support on Patreon or your support in becoming a member of the channel here on YouTube really helps to fund the sort of content that advertisers are skittish about. And so if you want to see me make videos like this, again, on occasion, then please consider supporting the channel. And if you are already, I thank you so much for that support.